In the heart of ancient Greece, on the rugged slopes of Mount Parnassus, there existed a place where mortals believed they could pierce the veil between human uncertainty and divine knowledge. The Oracle of Delphi was not merely a religious shrine or a prophetic institution. It was the spiritual center of the Hellenic world, a place where kings and peasants alike came seeking answers to questions that would shape the course of empires, wars, and individual destinies. For nearly 1,000 years, from approximately the 8th century before the Common Era until the 4th century of the Common Era, this sacred site wielded an influence that transcended the boundaries of city-states and reached into the very fabric of Greek civilization itself. The origins of Delphi are shrouded in myth and legend, as befits an institution so intimately connected with the divine. According to ancient tradition, Zeus himself designated this site as the center of the world by releasing 2 eagles from opposite ends of the earth, and where they met marked the omphalos, the navel of the world. A sacred stone, believed to be this very omphalos, stood within the temple precinct, symbolizing Delphi's cosmic significance. But the site's association with prophecy predates even the worship of Apollo. Earlier myths tell of a more primordial oracle, one presided over by Gaia, the earth goddess, and guarded by the serpent Python. It was Apollo who would claim this site for himself, slaying Python and establishing his sanctuary where the creature once dwelt. This mythological succession from earth goddess to sky god reflects a historical transition in Greek religious practice, a shift from older chthonic cults to the ordered pantheon of the Olympian gods. The sanctuary that emerged at Delphi was architecturally and spiritually magnificent. Pilgrims ascending the sacred way would pass treasuries built by various Greek city-states, each structure a testament to both piety and civic pride. These buildings housed offerings to Apollo, precious objects dedicated by cities seeking divine favor or expressing gratitude for prophecies fulfilled. The Temple of Apollo itself dominated the sanctuary, rebuilt multiple times after destruction by fire, earthquake, and the ravages of time. Within this temple resided the heart of the oracle, the Adyton, an inner sanctum where prophecy was delivered. It was here, in this most sacred space, that the Pythia, the priestess of Apollo, would enter her trance and become the voice of the god. The process of consultation was elaborate, governed by ritual and tradition. The oracle did not operate continuously, but was available primarily during the warmer months, with the winter months reserved for Apollo's mythical absence when Dionysus was said to preside over Delphi. Consultants would arrive having undergone purification, often bathing in the Castalian spring that flowed through the sanctuary grounds. They would offer a sacrificial animal, typically a goat, and pay a consultation fee. The demand was such that there existed a complex system of precedents, with some cities holding promenteia, the right to consult the oracle before others. Sparta, for instance, enjoyed this privilege, a reflection of Delphi's political dimensions. When the moment for consultation arrived, the Pythia, an ordinary woman chosen from among the local population, would prepare herself through ritual purification. She would enter the Adyton, seat herself upon a tripod, and breathe in vapors that rose from a chasm in the earth. For centuries, scholars debated whether these vapors were real or symbolic. Recent geological studies have revealed that Delphi sits upon intersecting fault lines, and that gases including ethylene, a sweet-smelling substance with narcotic properties, may indeed have seeped through fissures in the rock. Whether these gases alone induced the Pythia's altered state, or whether her trance resulted from a combination of psychological, spiritual, and environmental factors, remains a matter of discussion. What is undeniable is that those who witnessed her pronouncements believed they were in the presence of genuine divine communication. The Pythia's utterances were often cryptic, delivered in a state of ecstasy. Ancient sources disagree on whether she spoke in coherent verses or incoherent sounds that required interpretation. Attending priests, the prophetai, would render her words into the hexameter verse that became the oracle's official responses. This interpretive layer added another dimension to the process, one that allowed for ambiguity while maintaining the oracle's infallibility. If a prophecy seemed not to come true, the fault lay in the interpretation, not in Apollo's wisdom. The oracle's pronouncements shaped the political and military landscape of the Greek world in profound ways. When Croesus, the wealthy king of Lydia, contemplated war against Persia, he consulted Delphi and was told that if he crossed the river Halys, he would destroy a great empire. Emboldened, Croesus went to war, only to find that the empire destroyed was his own. This famous consultation illustrates the double-edged nature of oracular wisdom, its capacity to speak truth while remaining dangerously open to misinterpretation. When Athens faced the Persian invasion in the early 5th century, the Athenians received a terrifying prophecy speaking of destruction and urging them to flee. A second consultation yielded the enigmatic phrase that Athens would be saved by wooden walls. The Athenian leader Themistocles interpreted this as a reference to ships, not to physical fortifications, and his naval strategy at Salamis proved decisive in repelling the Persian forces. Delphi's influence extended beyond matters of war and statecraft into the realm of colonization and law-giving. Greek cities contemplating the establishment of colonies in distant lands would seek Apollo's approval and guidance. The oracle sanctioned expeditions to Sicily, southern Italy, and the shores of the Black Sea, lending divine authority to these ventures and helping to spread Greek culture across the Mediterranean. Lawgivers, too, sought oracular confirmation for their constitutional reforms. Lycurgus of Sparta, whether historical figure or legendary lawgiver, was said to have received the Pythia's blessing for his austere and militaristic social system, a blessing that gave these laws an aura of divine sanction that would endure for centuries. The priesthood and administration of Delphi were themselves subjects of political interest. The sanctuary was initially controlled by local populations, but eventually came under the management of the Amphictyonic League, a religious association of Greek city-states. This body oversaw the sanctuary's affairs, organized the Pythian Games, athletic and artistic competitions, second in prestige only to those at Olympia, and mediated disputes over the site's control. Several sacred wars were fought when various powers sought to dominate Delphi, or when accusations of sacrilege arose. These conflicts underscore a fundamental reality. While Delphi claimed to stand above politics, speaking with the voice of an impartial god, it was inevitably entangled in the very human struggles for power and influence. As Greek civilization evolved, so too did attitudes toward the oracle. The classical period saw the height of Delphi's influence, but also the emergence of philosophical traditions that questioned oracular authority. The sophists and later philosophers like Plato and Aristotle approached the oracle with varying degrees of skepticism or reinterpretation. Plato acknowledged the oracle's significance, famously recounting how Socrates was declared the wisest of men by the Pythia, a pronouncement that Socrates himself found perplexing and spent his life trying to understand. Yet philosophical inquiry increasingly emphasized human reason over divine revelation, a shift that would gradually erode the oracle's unchallenged authority. The rise of Macedon under Philip II and then Alexander the Great brought new dynamics to Delphi. Alexander himself consulted the oracle before his campaigns, and though accounts vary regarding what transpired, the young conqueror clearly sought the prestige that came with Apollo's blessing. As Greek civilization spread eastward following Alexander's conquests, and as Rome gradually extended its power over the Mediterranean world, Delphi entered a period of transition. Roman generals and emperors would consult the oracle, and Rome officially protected the sanctuary, but the cultural and religious landscape was changing. New philosophies, new religions, and new forms of political authority were emerging. The advent of Christianity marked the beginning of the end for Delphi's oracular tradition. As the new religion spread through the Roman Empire, pagan sanctuaries faced increasing hostility. Christian writers portrayed the oracle as either fraudulent or demonically inspired, and the growing Christian population had no use for Apollo's prophecies when they believed they had access to a more direct and authentic divine truth. The last recorded prophecy from Delphi, delivered to the Emperor Julian, who sought to restore traditional Roman religion in the 4th century, was itself a kind of farewell. "Tell the king, the fair-wrought hall has fallen to the ground. Apollo has no chapel left, no prophesying bay, no talking spring. The stream is dry that had so much to say." Whether these were truly the Pythia's words or a later literary invention, they capture the historical reality. By the end of the 4th century, the Christian emperor Theodosius had banned pagan worship, and the oracle fell silent. Yet the end of prophecy did not mean the end of Delphi's influence. The sanctuary's legacy lived on in multiple dimensions. The maxims inscribed at the temple, "Know thyself," and "Nothing in excess," became foundational principles of Western ethical thought. The oracle's emphasis on self-knowledge and moderation resonated through centuries of philosophical and moral discourse. The very concept of seeking wisdom through consultation with a higher power, of acknowledging the limits of human knowledge, of interpreting ambiguous signs, these became enduring patterns in Western culture. In the modern world, we no longer journey to Delphi seeking prophecies. Yet the impulses that drove ancient Greeks up the slopes of Mount Parnassus remain recognizable. We still seek certainty in an uncertain world, still look for external validation for our decisions, still hope that someone or something can tell us what the future holds. Our oracles have changed form. We consult experts, algorithms, data models, and predictive analytics. We turn to psychologists and life coaches, to financial advisors and political pundits. We feed questions into artificial intelligence systems and await their responses. The mediums have transformed, but the underlying human need for guidance persists. The oracle also reminds us of the relationship between ambiguity and authority. The Pythia's cryptic pronouncements gained power precisely because they were open to interpretation. In our own era of information abundance and competing narratives, we see how ambiguity can be weaponized, how those who claim to speak truth often do so in ways that allow for multiple readings. The ancient consultants who sought to parse the oracle's words, who debated meanings and argued over interpretations, were engaged in a practice not unlike our contemporary struggles to determine what is true in a landscape of spin, misinformation, and selective facts. Delphi stands as a monument to humanity's eternal dialogue with mystery, to our conviction that there exists knowledge beyond ordinary perception, and to our simultaneous capacity for profound faith and critical skepticism. The sacred site where Apollo once spoke through his priestess now lies in ruins, visited by tourists rather than supplicants. But the questions that brought kings and farmers to that place, the yearning for wisdom, the fear of making wrong choices, the hope that we might glimpse some pattern in the chaos of existence, these remain as vital today as they were 3,000 years ago. In this sense, the oracle has never truly fallen silent. It merely speaks now in different voices, and we, like the ancient Greeks, must navigate between belief and doubt, between the comfort of certainty and the humility of acknowledging all that we cannot know.